I felt like I played at my best when I was focused on my strengths first.
Too often athletes, whatever sport it is, they feel like they have to be good at everything. Whereas it's better to be great at one thing and your teammate next to you be great at the other thing. You complement each other so nicely.
I started to get back to doing the things that I did best well because I was more focused on the things that were important and I was able to let go of all of the rest.
Welcome to 4TG. Ben Brown, welcome to the 4TG podcast.
Thanks for having me, Kylie.
I've been very excited to have this chat because when I think about you, I think that you are the gold standard of what a male ally looks like for supporting women's sport. You've been an AFL player, you're now an AFLW development coach, and you're the father of two beautiful girls. So I can only imagine you want the best for those girls and that they can be part of a world where they're treated with respect, equality, and safety when they start playing sport if they wish to.
Absolutely. You're too kind. I have been involved in women's sport for a long time, but I think it's because I love it so much and it keeps drawing me back because of the people, the culture. It is really a joy to be involved in women's sport. So I feel like I'm the lucky one.
Too modest. So just to give context to the listeners, I'm sure they all know about you, but you were a very successful AFL player. You played for North Melbourne. You were the leading goal scorer for about 4 years in a row, I believe, 2016 to 2019.
That was about right.
That was right. And you were a premiership player at Melbourne. But before we get into your AFL career, I want to know more about the role that sport played in your childhood and how it helped shape you to who you are today.
Sport played a huge role in my childhood. Probably for a lot of AFL players, it was their dad's side of the family that was really into sport. For me, it was more my mum's side. So mum was hugely into sport when she was a youngster. And she grew up with three younger brothers, one of whom played 167 games at Collingwood and Fitzroy, and her dad played a lot of games at Glenorchy Footy Club down in Tassie, and so footy was a big part of that household growing up. Mum played a lot of netball, a lot of basketball, so loved that. I should say too, my dad was a state level netballer
awesome.
for down in Tassie, but also played a lot of basketball and that as well. So yeah, sport, basketball, footy, anything I could get my hands on, I wanted to get my hands on when I was young. And my parents used to say that when I was a toddler, I was happy when I had a ball in my hand. So from a very young age, I was playing sport, and I was very fortunate to my mum and dad. They had 6 boys, so I was the eldest of 6. So they spent most of our young lives running us around to various sporting events. I don't know how they did it, but they managed to give us so many opportunities to do what we loved, and sport was a big part of that for me. Yeah,
I can imagine there was a bit of a competitive household with 6 boys. It
was competitive, and I probably beat up on my younger brothers a little bit. It was great though, because once you were done with one, out playing cricket in the backyard or whatever, and they got sick of me, then I could find another one to play
5
with.
More to go through. Yeah. That's awesome. Now, we were just talking earlier about AFL wasn't always on the cards for you. So how did that sort of come about?
I really enjoyed playing sport. Every type of sport I get my hands on, as I said, but I didn't think that I would ever get to the point where I could be an elite athlete. I would have been what I would have loved to have done more than anything in the world, but I just didn't think that I had it in me to do that. Mm-hmm. I probably had some coaches and some people around me that gave me the confidence to go and try out for a few teams, and was lucky enough to get into the Tassie Mariners under 18 team, played in the championships, had a couple of good games at those championships, and suddenly I thought, maybe I can actually do this. I did my ACL pretty much immediately after I started having these, big dreams maybe this might come to reality. So it's interesting that the ACL probably came at a good time in hindsight, because I'd had those couple of games where I gave myself that confidence, but then after that the fire had been lit underneath me, and I knew that I wanted to try and make it at the next level. So rehabbed from the ACL. Took me 4 drafts to get to the AFL level. Took moving from Tasmania to Victoria to play with Werribee in the VFL. Had a year there, and then I was very fortunate that North Melbourne called my name out, and that was where the AFL career began.
I love that it's just not a typical journey from how you got to AFL. A lot of people, they're set up, they're in the junior leagues and they go through the TAC Cups or whatever it may be. You obviously weren't in that same sort of pathway, but you still got there, and it just goes to show injuries, especially at that early age, they're awful, they're isolating, they're disappointing, but I totally agree that they light a fire within you and you come back as a better person and as a better athlete. Do you think that was the case?
Yeah, I mean, if I could go back and have the knee that I had pre ACL, I'd probably do that. But it certainly did taught me a lot about myself as a person and the resilience required to get back from an injury. At that stage too, I'd never touched a gym in my life, so it gave me the opportunity to get in the gym. I think I put on about 10 kilos in the 9 months that I was out with my ACL. So all that extra load going through my knee, I don't know how I didn't re-injure it. But that taught me a little bit about that too. So it was probably a positive, net positive in the end.
Yes, yeah. And then now tell us about your AFL career. We've discussed that you were very successful in it, but I want to know more about the way that you approached it. How did you separate footy and life? How did you train your mind to be constantly dealing with setbacks, because you did have a lot of other injuries throughout your career as well?
Yeah, mainly related to that same knee. I ended up with, including the ACL reconstruction, I had 9 surgeries during my career. So there was, you'd ask my wife, most off seasons was surgery, and my wife's there having to nurse me back to health after various surgeries that I had. So and to an extent that's the life of being an AFL footballer. I found starting out in AFL difficult for various reasons. I think I was still very much working out who I was as a person. So that probably first couple of years found relatively difficult, but from a football perspective, I was very, very driven. And I think that was where I was able to put a lot of my energy was into going after just trying to get a game at AFL level. I remember that was one of the first goals that I set for myself was I want to play one game of AFL footy, and was very fortunate to get that opportunity part of the way through my first year. And then it was about, well, let's just see how much I can put into this and how far I can take it. And I think it was just my ability to train hard, to be honest. Early days, and to really nail down on a few things that I wanted to focus on from a strengths perspective. I think I had a couple of coaches who really sort of guided me down that path of going, well, these are the things you do really well, as opposed to focusing on the areas of my game that were RFIs. So particularly my goal kicking, I spent so many hours. I wanted to be the last one out on the track, having shots at goal, and I'd just kick and kick and kick until I felt comfortable. So things like that, I think, I was able to turn certain things into weapons of mine within my game, so that it didn't matter that I wasn't having 25 touches in a game, but I'd be able to, slot the goals that I had the opportunity to kick. So little things like that, I think I was able to focus my efforts in the right sort of ways and build a bit of a niche for myself as a forward. What
was the best bit of coaching advice that you've ever been given when you were playing the AFL?
Best piece of advice. I think it was just that. I think it was play to your strengths. And it was probably when I started off at AFL level, it was the forwards coach at North Melbourne was Shane Watson, and Brad Scott as well was my coach at North Melbourne at the time. And I think it was a really strengths-based approach. And I've definitely taken that forward now into how I want to be a coach myself, is to really focus on the strengths of players, and obviously understanding that there are certain things that need to get up to the level. But I think I felt like I played at my best when I was focused on my strengths first and what I could bring, and knowing that those strengths are not, it's not a cookie cutter approach. It's not, you play this role, so you have to be this type of player. It can be you play this role and this is how you do this role best.
Yep.
So I think that really helped me.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing to note as well, because if you've got a whole team of, say, 18 players, and if every single one of them plays to their one strength, you've got a well-rounded team. Too often athletes, whatever sport it is, they feel like they have to be good at everything. Whereas it's better to be great at one thing and your teammate next to you be great at the other thing. You complement each other so nicely. So I think there's definitely a space for that in the coaching realm that needs to be focused on more.
Yeah, it's probably... and this is probably fast forwarding a little bit towards, being traded away from North Melbourne and getting to the Melbourne Footy Club. Really lucky to have that, I suppose, second chance there. But I'd had a rough 12 months finishing up at North Melbourne, and then from a form perspective and how I was feeling about my game, and I'd probably gone away from that mindset of focusing on what my strengths were. And it was halfway through 2021, I came into the team for a couple of weeks, had a couple of weeks in my first games with Melbourne, and then was dropped back to the VFL, and I had about 6 weeks back there. But at that time, I remember sitting in the rooms as an emergency one day for a game Melbourne were playing at Marvel Stadium, and sitting there going, we're a really good team. We're going to make finals here, and we've got a fair chance to make it a lot of the way through finals. And I didn't want to be sitting in the change rooms watching my teammates run out and play in finals and then, walk up to the seats and watch it. So I kind of made a decision. I had to go back and look at, well, what are my strengths? What can I bring to this team? And I recognized what a couple of those strengths are, and I got a little book. And I started to write down, I always started with today I will. And it was just one, maximum 2 things that I wanted to do in that training session or that game. Because I think, to your point before, I was thinking about being perfect in every aspect of what I was doing out on the field. So I would miss a kick, or I'd jump really well for a mark and spill it, and that would dent my confidence every time something didn't go perfectly. So for me, simplifying it down and going, today I will launch at the ball. I was like, if I launched at the ball, didn't matter if I dropped it, didn't matter if I missed that kick or missed that shot at goal. I was doing that one thing that I said I would do. And it was always something that was important to my game, and I thought was going to make me play to my strengths more and focus me in. So, after doing that for a couple months, and I'd always put a ticker across based on training or game, did I do that thing? And I found that I started to get back to doing the things that I did best well, because I was more focused on the things that were important, and I was able to let go of all of the rest. And it turned out at the end of that year was our premiership year. I was able to get back in the team. I was able to feel like I was really able to contribute, and I was playing the kind of footy that I knew I could play. So I think that was super important for me in terms of, like, I went away from that. You think you got it all sorted?
Yeah.
And I went away from that, and then being able to bring myself back to that was important.
Yeah, I think that's an extremely actionable thing that a lot of listeners could do right now in training. I know it's off season for a lot of people now, but just having 1 or 2 focus points to think about, because yourself, if you're being given 6 or 7 different instructions, you can't think clearly on one. So it's just best to have almost this anchor to come back to, whether it is just to launch, whether it is just to kick through the ball or something, and it just settles your nerves and makes you a lot more calmer in the moment. It can be more present.
Yeah, and it is up to you at the end of the day. Like, coaches are there to give you advice, teammates, and often when things aren't going well, that's when you get advice coming in from all corners. So at the end of the day, it's your career, and you know better than anyone what makes you a good player. So being able to get yourself into that mindset, doing a lot of work on the mindset side of things as well, that's certainly what helped me. And it might not, writing something out in a book might not be for you, but finding what actually does work for you to get you into that mindset for game day, I think it's worth putting some time into that.
How much at the AFL level, was mindset spoken about, taught, discussed? Was it part of your routine?
It was something that came in more so towards the middle and back end of my career. Probably when I started out, the idea of psychology and sports psychologists weren't so much a part of the footy clubs I was a part of, but it's definitely become more a part of what footy clubs are about now, and trying to make sure that players are in the best mindset on field. I think it plays a huge role. We speak about like even momentum in games and how teams can start, gaining momentum over a game of football, and even those waves of momentum. Like there's got to be a mental aspect to what's going on there. It's not just the flow of the game is a certain way. I think there's an element of there's got to be an element of mindset in that. I think we're starting to understand that more in the elite athlete space, and then going, okay, well, the momentum's against us. What can we actually do to put in place, not only from an individual perspective, because it's really hard if you've got 16 players out on the field who are all sort of flowing in a certain negative direction. It's really hard if you're the only person who's got it sorted and you're trying to swim against the tide and trying to get everyone back. So, not only from an individual perspective, but what things as a team can you do and come back to? And that's a real challenge for coaches, I think, and to work out how to do that. Yeah.
Well, that was very present in the grand final last week, wasn't it? That the momentum shift in that second half for Geelong, for Brisbane to come back and to absolutely smash it in the end. But yeah, it brings you back to this point. Like, we train so hard in the gym, we train so hard doing extra goal kicking and all things like that. But if you get on the field and you make one mistake, your team makes a mistake, and you can't reset and come back from that, it really doesn't matter how hard you trained at the gym, because there's no way that you can get back and perform. So like, I'm very passionate. I think mindset is probably the most untapped thing in elite level, in community level, in all aspects. I just think there's such a big role that it can play, and we just need to probably put more attention towards it and more focus on it, because I think it really can be that edge that sets a good player apart from a great player, and a good team apart from a great team.
Great point. Untapped is right, I reckon.
Yeah. So tell me now, within AFL, I believe the stat is that about 80% of players have a long-term injury. So resilience really is a non-negotiable. Do you think, in your opinion, what sets a good player apart from a great player is talent? Or do you think it could be more along the mindset and the resilience and teammateship and things that come along with, all those sort of setbacks?
I think it's a combination. I think it's talent of a player. I think it's resilience of a player. I also think that there's an element of which club or team you're part of, and the style of play that team takes out every week, and whether a player, might be a young draftee that comes into the team, whether they fit into that system well, whether they gel with their teammates, whether they naturally sort of fit into a nice role within that team or not, whether they're backed in by their coaches to play to their strengths. So much comes into whether, a player makes it at the highest level or doesn't. I think for me, I was very fortunate in the early part of my career that I was really backed in to play a certain role and to play a style of game that really suited the kind of player that I was. I think if I were expected to play like Tom Hawkins, early in my career, I think I would have really struggled with that, because I didn't have the size or the amazing contest work that Tom was able to put out on the field. So for me, I was more of a run up and down the ground and play as off the body as I could, basically, and hit back up at the ball carrier and get balls that way. So, but I played in a team where that was sort of built into the structure of how the team wanted to play. So that suited me really well. There are other players who, maybe they were more of a contest player, and so they didn't get that opportunity to do that in that team. So I find that even discussions around like, 3 or 4 years down the track after a certain draft class has been drafted, and they look at which players were like roaring success and which ones were, you put an X next to their name and go, well, why did that club draft that person? I think there's so much more than just did the player apply themselves? Were they talented enough? Often there's so many other aspects that go into that. Now, does that mean that, individual resilience and talent and all those kind of things don't have an impact at all? Absolutely not. Like they definitely do. But there's so many aspects that go into success or otherwise of an individual within a system. But yeah, absolutely. I think back to your original point, I think in terms of resilience, I did always, I was out a lot in the rehab group across my career. I'm quite a process person, so I didn't mind, like, obviously I would have preferred to be playing, but when I had a structured rehab program and I knew that I do this step and then I do this step and I do this step, that actually, I quite liked that sort of understanding that structure and understanding that process. I actually really liked trying to get the most out of myself during those, whether it was a bike session or I was a terrible swimmer, but swimming in the pool, I was like looking up at the pool clock, going around and trying to get 25 meters in 28 seconds instead of 29.
Mm-hmm.
Those little things were like opportunities to be competitive with myself and to try and get better. So I think those kind of aspects probably helped me, because again, I was in rehab quite a lot, so that when I came back out onto the track, I was more ready to go because I had pushed myself and hadn't sort of coasted through my rehab. So I do think I worked hard.
Yes.
In those aspects.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I never wish long-term injury upon anyone, but you do learn a lot about yourself during those times. And yeah, when they come back and make that awesome comeback story, it's just like they deserve it so much, probably more than any other player. And it's just so good to see. But when you were constantly, in a team, in rehab, setbacks, challenges, all the rest, was there ever a breaking point where you just thought, I'm done, I just want to give up?
Yes, various points. Particularly some of the longer term ones. Yeah, it's pretty dire when you get right into the depths of rehab, and I'm sure you felt that as well out with the ACL over the last year. I know I've just been through it a little bit by proxy because my wife did her ACL playing social basketball, and she has been missing it so much, and we've been through all of the roller coaster of
emotions,
the roller coaster of emotions, and understanding that it is a roller coaster. And so when you're thinking about the injury constantly, like that was where it got to. The point I got to near the end of my career was I was playing, but I had an arthritic knee and I got to the point where I was constantly thinking about it. The first thing I thought about when I woke up in the morning was, how does my knee feel today, and like moving it, and how does it feel when I'm walking to go eat my breakfast in the morning. It can be pretty debilitating, those kind of things, but I think at the end of the day, you just do everything you can to get to the point where you can perform as best as you can on the day. And for me, it got to the point where, particularly towards the end of my career, I had to be comfortable that, there's going to be some pain, but I trust the doctors, trust the physios that I've been working with, and knowing that I can still perform despite that, which is probably a bit strange, but I had to get to that point. So.
Yeah. And then how was the transition out of AFL? I know it's a scary and confronting thing for every athlete, but were you ever concerned about, you don't know who you're going to be or what you're going to do post-career, or did you always have a pretty solid idea of what that was going to look like?
No, absolutely. There were bits and pieces post-career that I did find quite difficult. I think when you've done a career for, I was in the system for 11 years and trying to get into the system for another 3 or 4 before that, or even all my childhood playing sport. I was like, okay, this part of me is obsolete now. That did hit me at various points. I think I knew that I wanted to stay involved in women's sport, and AFLW, and that really gave me that that sense of groundedness post career, was that I knew that this movement that I'd been able to be a part of since the inception of AFLW, and even before then, was something that I wanted to continue to be involved with. That was what sort of gave me that, all right, I'm going to go do this now and see where that takes me, and know that I'm doing something that I'm going to love doing, and that I'm going to be trying to do my best to support athletes who absolutely deserve more support than what they've been given since time immemorial. So that was probably that grounding moment for me.
Yeah. And so how did it all come about? So you're the AFLW development coach for Essendon this season. How did it all come about, and how are you finding it so far?
Yeah, so probably have to go back to 2015 maybe. I'm trying to remember when the first Melbourne Western Bulldogs exhibition games were being played, and we were going out to watch one at Whitten Oval. And it was just, I mean, I'd grown up playing football with a couple of girls at school, and we'd play sort of primary school footy. And I remember one of the girls in particular I used to ruck against, and she was bigger and stronger than me and always beat up on me. And I remember we got to year 7 football, and there wasn't a team for her to play in. And it was back page of the paper, and it was just a bit of a, oh, well, that's the way the world is. And I think 13-year-old me probably thought that as well. It's like, oh, that's sad, but on I go with life. And so thinking back on that, I'm going, okay, now I've got this opportunity that I never thought I'd get, to be an AFL player. And, these girls who just haven't had those same opportunities, haven't had the same level of privilege that I was afforded. And they're out there playing footy, and it seems like this great environment, awesome supportive environment. I want to be a part of that, and I want to do my bit. So I went down to Melbourne Uni, trained out of Arden Street, and so I put my hand up to go down and kick some footies out to the girls having shots at goal, or hold marking bags, or whatever it is that the coaches wanted me to do. And then North Melbourne got a team involved with North Melbourne. Just as much as I could, get down to training and head along to games, support in any way that I could. Kind of as a specialist coach, I suppose you'd call me, because I didn't have the time to commit to being a full-time assistant or anything like that. And then Melbourne when I moved across. So Essendon were looking to expand on their coaching panel, and were looking for a role as head of development. And so I went in and had a chat to them, and was really fortunate they gave me the opportunity to step into the role. And I have learnt so much in my first 8 months or so that I've been part of the program. I feel really honoured to learn from a few awesome coaches. Natalie Wood, the head coach, so knowledgeable, coaching background for a number of years too. The way she teaches the game, the way she interacts with players. I feel like I've learnt so much from that experience, and she's taken a lot of time to walk me through some of the bits of coaching that I wasn't up with. So I feel really fortunate for that experience. I've been working pretty closely with Paul Groves, who's the midfield coach as well. Western Bulldogs premiership coach from 2017 season. And yeah, he's a wealth of knowledge as well. So I feel like I'm just learning all the time, and just trying to provide the best experience that I can for the players. There are elements as a coach that I'm still very much in the learning phase, but I think I've always been passionate about women's footy and about the women's game. So to be able to bring that passion into the workplace every day, that's what I hope the players see. So yeah, it's been great. Long-winded answer, but it's been great.
Yeah, and aside from the complete obvious, what do you think is the key difference between AFL and AFLW?
They're different games to start with. Like the style of game is different. I think it does take a different level of knowledge. It's not just I can transplant all of my knowledge of men's footy across to women's and then I understand all the game plans and understand all the rest of it. I think there's elements of the games that are quite different. I think for me, the thing I've just loved about being involved in women's footy is how players have often got two jobs. They're working their job as players and then they're going off to do another job and coming back. We've got paramedics and we've got one of our players is relatively high up at Uber and has a team of 8 or 9 people working under her, and she's often in at the football club doing Zoom meetings to try and do her 2 jobs at the same time. Other players working in disability support work. But the passion that they come into footy with, the keenness to learn more and to want to get better and to put their best foot forward for the team, but for themselves as well. And I think that's incredibly inspiring for me, just to sort of witness that passion. I think like the amount of barriers that these women have had to overcome to get to the level that they're at, and then to, keep wading through all the crap that, online and the rest of the world throws at them, and to be able to just want to be the best version of themselves and to play footy because they love it. They love being with their teammates and they love, they love the game. I think that's incredibly inspiring to me. It makes me want to be a better coach, and it just makes me want to, scream out to the world that these girls they deserve to have that opportunity that I had growing up. The level of people who are dedicated to their development that I had, to be able to go through school and know that if I was good enough that could be my career, and that I wouldn't have to worry about, I have to do 2 jobs at the same time. Because at the end of the day too, and this is a bit of a tangent, but as the AFL and as football, we're actually trying to attract the best athletes in Australia to play our sport. We're competing with basketball and tennis and cricket and all these other sports. So people talk about the investment in the game. So if you want the best product that you can get, you need to invest in the game, because you need these young girls going through school and going, I'm going to play football because that can be my career. And often the best athletes are the best basketball and the best footballer. So if you've got someone going to play basketball, they're not playing footy. We're not going to have many Mon Contis that can do both at the same time from now on. So, in terms of, we talk about the investment in the game and the product that's being put out. So the product is one part of it. We do need to continue to attract the best athletes to play our sport, and that's going to improve the product of the game and get the best people playing our game, which is what we want as well. So I don't know whether that tangent was. I feel like I went on a couple of tangents there. But
no, it's so true. I found out the other day that a 20-year-old female cricket player, before sponsorships and brand deals, is walking away with around $700,000 a year. And I was just like, shit, I wish I was good at cricket. But when you think about that, right, if you were a young girl and you were playing cricket or footy, why wouldn't you choose cricket? Like, you'd be mad not to, really. So it just proves again, the AFLW players now, the purest of intent, that they are literally going out there because they love it. There's really not much, money in it at all, but they really do it for the right reasons. And you just even have to look at the stats. Like, I think viewership in Australia of women's sport, it's gone up 64% in the past 5 years, but women are still paid 10% of their male counterparts, something around that. You cannot expect the product to get better if you're not putting money into it. At the end of the day, there's just no way around it. And to think that we still get told, we're only 10 years in officially of AFLW, we're constantly getting told we're not good enough. No one wants to watch us. We get hate mail, comments, sexist comments on social media. It just doesn't give you a lot of hope to see how it's being treated and perceived. So if there's one misconception that you could bust with the whole audience, not just the male audience, but within everyone, what would that be about AFLW?
I think misconception, I don't know if it's a misconception, but the product's one part of it, but I think it's the wrong part to focus on. I think we need to take a step back and go, what are we trying to do as a society? What are we trying to do? What world are we trying to build? And if there are inequities in that world, then we need to, I think the world that I want to live in, put it this way, the world I want to live in is one where those inequities are taken away. So if we've got male athletes able to play at the AFL level and, have access to facilities and pay and all these kind of things, we should be trying to ensure that everyone gets access to those opportunities. I think that's the world that I want to live in. If I had been a player and you said, all right, we need to take some of what you get away and give it to these people, I would have absolutely done that because that's the world that I want to live in. So I think we've got to take a step back and go, okay, we can talk about viewership and we can talk about the level of the product and we can talk about all the rest of it. And to an extent, it's the capitalist world we live in, right? Is that everything is a product and everything is there to be consumed, number one. But I think footy has the ability to be different to that and to separate itself from that world. The AFL is a not-for-profit organisation, so the AFL has to have a social conscience as part of what they're doing. That's that they're not a for-profit organisation, so that in itself makes it a different entity. So you can actually, the AFL can separate itself in that sense. So I think when it comes to how we fund women's sport, how we look at women's sport in comparison to men's sport, I think we need to broaden our view and look at, okay, yes, the product will improve as you invest more into it. And I think we're seeing that now because some of the zippy fishes of the world that are coming in and just suddenly taking the competition by storm because they've had investment put into them. They've had coaches who have developed them and they've kicked footy since they were age 4 because they've had the pathways to be able to do that, and it hasn't been like the girl that I played up with at primary school who was told at grade 7 that she can't play anymore. They've had some of these barriers taken away, and suddenly you see that the level they're able to put out on the field is matching it with the best in the league from game 1. That tells you where it's at. But I think as well, we need to look at things from being more than just a product.
Yes.
It's actually about what kind of world do we want to live in, what kind of opportunities do we want to give to our young people. And I don't think kids should grow up like I did, where it's, if you're a boy, there's all of these opportunities, and if you're a girl, no matter what you do, you're not going to have access to those. So how do we strip away those inequities? And that's the kind of world that I want to live in.
Yes, absolutely. At the end of the day, it's just about being a good person and learning to share, learning everyone is equal and everyone is deserving of the opportunities and the respect. Absolutely. And yeah, I think our worldviews have been skewed by the kind of world that we live in. And I think just throwing your hands up and going, well, that's the way the world is. I think when it comes to sport in particular, actually we don't have to do that. We don't have to throw our hands up and go, that's the way the world is. Sure, Wall Street might be that way, but does footy have to be that way? I think we need to ask ourselves these questions. Yeah. And it's funny that there are a lot of probably males out there and they say that women's sport, whatever, it doesn't affect me. But there is no world where it will not affect them because they will have a daughter, they will have a partner, a sister, a cousin who eventually wants to play sport or is playing sport. And if women are dropping out at twice the rate of boys by age 14 or 15, it's also the opportunities missed for society having women where they haven't been being able to stay into a safe and, and safe world where they can develop their own skills, where they can find who they are and what sort of strengths they have. And sport just gives you so much more than the game. It's all the skills and all the life lessons that you learn on that field that translates into great CEOs. It translates into great people, great parents. You learn to share, you learn to lose elegantly, you learn to win humbly, all these brilliant life lessons. I just think it's such a shame when men just say it doesn't affect me.
And we know that the advent of AFLW has changed how things work at local football clubs. Like the amount of young girls who are now playing football that didn't before has gone through the roof. I think it's like, I can't remember the number, but a heap of young girls and women as well, adult women are now playing football. So those young boys who are going into football clubs are now sharing training facilities with girls and are watching their classmates at school run around and kick footies and tackle each other. And, they're having to be aware that, okay, the girls' we've got to share our facilities with the girls, and that's how respect works. All of those kind of things are changing how we view the roles of boys and girls and men and women in society, and I think that can only be a positive thing. We've got expansive views of what masculinity and femininity mean and what girlhood and boyhood means. That is beginning to chip away at the kind of culture that we want to foster in our societies and to lead to that safer society for women and girls. And this is a lot of my other work outside of footy is in gender equality work and prevention of violence against women. We know that attitudes and behaviours are the things that, or negative attitudes and behaviours of men are what lead to violence against women. We know that. That's what all of the statistics, all of the studies that have been done into the primary prevention level of prevention of violence against women, we know that those things are what lead to it. Things like boys sharing facilities and access at sports clubs with girls, we know that that's going to make a difference at the high level in terms of that. So yeah, I think it's just got so many layers of positive of benefits for society that we're starting to see. We're starting to see the growth of AFLW. We're seeing investment in women's sport. It's good for everyone.
And as I said earlier, you're obviously an AFL player and you're giving back now to AFLW and women's sport. So what role can men play in driving equality for sport?
You say giving back. I think I get more than I give, which is great for me, and it's what's kept me coming back to it. I think just being conscious, particularly AFL men's athletes, that what you give to women's sport, I think people feel like, I don't know how much I can give, or I've got my own career, so I've got to put time into my family, time into all these other things. You tip in a little bit, and the ripple effect of that is huge. The influence of male players continuing to tip into women's sport, whether it's footy or whatever sport it is, the ripple effects of that can be really huge and can make a huge difference for the female athletes who are part of their football clubs, or even at lower levels of football. That support, even if it's sharing an Instagram story that the team's going to play or the time the team's going to play on the weekend, or thinking about, okay, what's the coverage like on our club's social media channels? Is it equal between the male and female teams? All of this can make a difference. So yeah, I think thinking about that, and also like take the time to talk to women who might be like, even if you're a local club, talk to some of the girls that are playing on the women's teams or the girls teams, and understand things from their perspective, and try and understand, are there any things that our club could be doing better to make you feel more like you're a part of the club. And once we start having these lines of communication be open, we get to understand each other better. And I think that that can only be a positive thing, whether that's like elite level or local level, state level, whatever it is. Yeah, the more communication lines can be open, the better.
Now, as we touched on before, you're a girl dad to two beautiful girls, Isla and Esme, 6 and 4.
Yes.
Knowing that when they're 14 or 15, they could be twice as likely to drop out of sport as their male counterparts. Obviously, that's probably changed your way of looking at things, having two daughters. But what sporting world do you want them to grow up in?
I think I touched on it before, but I think I'd like them to feel like they, as girls, have just as much right to be out on the sporting field as their boy peers do, whether that's at school, whether that's at their sports club. I want them to feel like they belong in sport, and that it's accepted not only by the boys in their cohort, but also by their own peers. They're like other girls that they go to school with, or they go to their sport clubs with, that they all feel like they've got that connection that they're able to build through movement and through using their bodies in a way that is perhaps not traditionally or stereotypically associated with what a girl should do. I'd like to see that dial shift and go, yep, girl tackling a girl at training, yep, we love that. Like it's not like we even have some of the girls at AFL level who, like, there'll be like a big hit at training, someone will lay like an incredible tackle, and I feel like if it was in the boys teams that I've been a part of, it'd be all like, yes, get him. And for the girls it's like, get up and apologize, and look and try and I think perhaps the boys could learn a little bit from the girls in terms of like making sure that the other person's okay and that kind of thing. So I don't think it's going all the way the other way, but I think like you can actually be proud about like using your strength or, laying a big tackle or those kind of things. So I'd love for my daughters to be able to feel like, yep, we can do these things with our bodies, and that is not only just okay, but actually celebrated.
Yes.
I feel like that's what I'd love for them to be able to do when they're 14, 15.
Well, you've got your dad shirt on right now.
I do.
Yes, Dad Yay. I think your two daughters will and already are extremely proud of having a role model like you. And on behalf of all the girls and women in sport, thank you so much for using your platform for good and for speaking out on this, because male voices hold so much weight, especially when they've got the platform, and what you're doing is absolutely incredible. And I can't thank you enough. We need more Ben Browns out there.
Oh, thanks, Kyle. I think it's amazing what you're doing with your podcast too, and I think I'm going to keep listening and hoping it'll continue to grow, because we need more voices like yours telling girls who are looking up to you right now, and all the girls at AFLW level and whichever sport at the professional level. We need more people telling them just what I was saying before, that you can do it and that we'll celebrate you. And I think you're doing a great job of that, so well done.
Thank you very much. And up the Dons.
Up the Dons.
Awesome. Thank you.